Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another X-Pound special of the Monday Night War. I'll be your host for this round, Marcus Shadow, and joining me, of course, we have James Phoenix from the Lair of the Phoenix.
Hello.
And we have Chriz the Mole from the Mole Hole.
And hello.
All right, so we're going to kick this one off with the Heart of War. And that's the Bret Hart portion of the Monday Night War, which was a huge part of the war. I mean, it was basically Vince McMahon pushing Bret Hart to WCW. That's kind of what he did by like mistrusting him and stuff like that. So, because I know Mole watched through this, like he was watching wrestling at the time, and Bret Hart is probably what, your second favorite wrestler of all time behind The Undertaker?
Yeah, he's up there at least, yeah. He's definitely in the top 5, or Fave 5, as Booker T would say.
Right. So I'll let you go ahead and take the Bret Hart stuff, so take it away, Mole.
And it's cool, you're the host for this one, I don't mind.
Okay, well, basically from how I understand it, basically it's all about the Montreal Screwjob thing, about how Bret Hart got built up, and he is one of the best in the business, or was one of the best in the business, and because I can't remember who it was, someone else went. Was it the whole Medusa thing that they were afraid of?
Yep, Alundra Blaze Medusa when she dropped the title.
Yeah, when she went to WCW and they had her come on with the women's title and drop it in a trash can, which, yeah, that was not a good move, Bischoff. Not a good move.
Well, it was a good move for Bischoff.
It was, but isn't that kind of thing like frowned upon in the business? Isn't that seen as unprofessional? If you have a superstar do that.
To be fair, people need to go back and watch our first video. He constantly did stuff that was frowned upon.
That was how he got ratings.
Yeah, true. Like giving away spoilers for the rivals.
Yeah, like that's even nothing is really dirty than coming on 10 minutes before your opponent and telling them what's going to happen on the opponent's show.
True. Though it is worth noting that Alundra Blaze did not want to do it, but ended up doing it anyway, and I think she probably regretted it. But so because of that, Vince McMahon got all fucking paranoid and basically outright lied to Bret Hart's face.
Hey, he did.
Which, not cool. Not cool, Vince. Not cool. And so Montreal Screwjob happens, and Bret gets pissed off, and we get WCW Bret, which is worse than WWF Bret, because they did fuck all with him.
Yep. It's also worth noting that we saw Bret in the Bret bit. I believe it showed him like near the end where he put over Austin, that he even was willing to go heel and stuff. When basically WWE was like, nope, we got a new cash cow, fuck off, which is kind of bad to treat their talent that way. But yeah, Bret went to WCW, they did fuck all with him, and which we will probably go into near the end when we're discussing this guy in particular. As Bret's gone on record before now, he said to Goldberg before their match, "Don't hurt me." 5 minutes into the match, he did a move that ended his career.
Yeah, this goes Goldberg. As we'll discuss later in the Goldberg segment, he was never a wrestler, and he was never properly trained.
Nope.
And a huge part of that is WCW, but we'll get into that. But Bret Hart, yeah, and then he got sucked up into NWO, which I'm like, I don't know if I like NWO Bret Hart. It didn't feel right to me. And it almost felt like he didn't want to be there.
Yep. Which I would say Bret Hart's probably one of the biggest casualties of the war.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Between getting shirked around from both WCW and WWF, and basically the Goldberg thing, that, yeah, Bret Hart got a very raw end of the deal.
Yep. Well, it is worth mentioning, which I can't remember the documentary mentions, Bischoff has gone on record before now saying he actually had a reason for not using Bret. and it wasn't to just because of how people were booked and people trying to bury Bret, which part of it might be that. Part of it does seem like that, especially with Carl Hogan, who's done it at WrestleMania 9. But it's a case of they were launching a new show. As Bischoff's mentioned in the past, they were launching WCW, I believe it was, WCW Thunder, which was basically their version of SmackDown. And they wanted a different roster to appear on that than what appeared on Nitro, so that it didn't hurt their talent to have to do over 6 hours a week on TV, and you weren't getting sick of seeing the same characters and stuff like that. So he waited to use Bret when that launched, so Bret would be a new talent for that new show. Makes sense, but come on, he's hot off the screw job. What the fuck? He even wrote your name in the air when he did the screw job.
Yeah, he was dumb not to capitalize on that. But like you said, I can see now why he waited. It was still a bad decision.
Yep, it was a bad decision, probably made for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I do like Bret. I think Bret really was what he said. The best there was, the best there is, and the best there ever will be. I don't think we're ever going to get anyone who loved the business, was that good in the ring, and was that invested in his character and stuff all at once.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And there are other people who are good in the ring, or there are other people who invested in their character, or there are, you know what I mean? There's stuff like that, but it's very rare you see someone who does all of them.
Yeah. Well, especially in this day and age where it's all about branching out. It's all about being like a jack of all trades, kind of, dipping your hands in all the different forms of media. As opposed to back then, a lot of the media wasn't as developed as it is now. It's not as expansive and as technologically advanced as it is now. So back in those days, it was more you went in one direction to one piece of media and you stuck with that media and you had passion for that business. Now it's like, okay, yeah, a lot of the superstars might love the business. They might have passion for the business, but they have passion for other things as well, and they're using this business as a way to fuel their passions across the board, which lowers the passions for everything that they do, and they just don't put everything into what it is they do because they're doing so much.
Yep.
Like The Miz, I think The Miz is a huge casualty of that, of the fact that you could tell he loves to wrestle, you could tell he loves the business, but at the same time he's also doing these little, side movies and stuff, and I think the different movie projects are really hurting his in-ring career because he's never around.
I think he's doing those movies only because WWE offered him the movies. It's like with Cena doing all of them because they stopped using Cena because they needed him on TV. They were doing nothing with The Miz, so they were like, well, do you want to be in a film? He's like, sure. It at least gets him something as opposed to completely screwed.
Yeah, because let's face it, when The Miz does show and participate, he gets buried by The Rock, so.
Which is a prime example of someone who left the business to go do other stuff.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So, Jim, what do you think of the Heart of War? Okay.
Well, sorry. Well, personally, I thought it was an interesting look at the build-up, because I was doing about the screw job, but didn't know much about the build-up to the screw job, other than that Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels hated each other. So it was interesting to see some of the lead-up to that, how that developed, and how big a star Bret really was at that time, and how big Shawn Michaels was about to be, and to see what they did to Bret, and see the whole story rather than just that one portion of it that you always see was really interesting.
Yep. Though I do think they didn't show Bret's side in this one, for obvious reasons of WWE. I don't think they really talked about or showed Bret's side as much. Like, they showed the WWE side of things, and they talked about Bret a little bit, but they didn't show like the footage from, like I've mentioned in the past, Wrestling with Shadows, the documentary, where you clearly see Vince actually tell Bret it's okay, and Vince even reassuring Bret over and over again that this is a good idea. And it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, that was a little biased.
Yeah, just a little. But then again, have you ever known Vince McMahon to be that honest?
No, but like we've mentioned with these documentaries, it is interesting when you see them be completely biased as opposed to what they should have been, or how they actually were perceived by fans and stuff like that. It's like, it's like they're deliberately rewriting their own history with this to try and make them seem better, which I understand why, but it's like, I'd rather you not do this, because at the end of the day, you won the war. The end of the story is still going to be, you came out on top. Tell it accurately.
Yeah, well...
My question becomes, when did Vince actually tell Bret that? Only because, if you believe Vince Russo's version of history, which I would always take with a grain of salt, but Vince Russo mentions that basically they had a meeting at Vince's house a week before where they talked about the possibilities, and they were trying to come up with ideas to make this work, and every time they came up with an idea, they called Bret, and Bret shot them the hell down every single time. And they were at Vince's house for like hours until the middle of the night trying to come up with ideas, and Bret would not accept any ideas. So it's entirely possible that after that, Vince might have already, according to Russo, he was the one that said out loud, well, what if we just ring the bell even if he doesn't tap out, supposedly, if you believe that versus the Triple H version of things. I don't know which is true. I'm more liable to believe Triple H, but anyway. The fact of the matter is, if that's to be true, then if he saw Bret after that and told him it was okay, then it's entirely possible Vince told Bret it's okay because he already planned to screw him, because Bret was already a dick and wouldn't accept any of the ideas for how to drop the title.
Yeah, except for, like I said, with the documentary, they show all that month leading up to it is Vince basically telling him it's okay, because Vince was telling him how he wanted the Hitman character, which, to be fair, is one he's created, to go out, and he was like, look, I'm under contract on Raw the next night. Have me drop the title when it's not in my hometown. Come on. And Vince is like, yeah, and Vince actually saw a side, and Vince kind of agreed to it. So, like I said, both sides do have merit, if that makes sense. Like, you can totally see Bret's, but you can also totally see Vince's.
Yeah.
And I would just like to say these, Monday Night War documentaries here have all been put together pretty well, and it's totally believable that this one would be more biased than any of the other ones, just because it's such a touchy and personal subject to Vince that I could see him wanting it presented in a specific way that might not be entirely truthful.
Yep. Which I will mention, something they left off on this, which I feel they really could have done, because they talked about Bret coming back to the company years later, just a little bit in the thing, and like, cool, all's forgiven and stuff. In my opinion, they left off one of the coolest and one of the most personal stories going. But I don't know if you guys have seen any interviews with Bret and stuff when he mentioned this, and this was before he even came back to WWE.
What's that?
He mentioned when he had his stroke, this is after his career was over, when he had his stroke and he was lying in hospital, he said he got 2 phone calls that day. One was from The Undertaker, one was from Vince. Both of which were concerned about him. Undertaker was concerned about him because him and Undertaker were apparently really good friends, which I could totally see. Vince was concerned for him because Vince always looked at Bret like a son. I was like, how did you not play up that? Well, talk about that. That's really emotional and really cool that even after they hated each other and they went their separate ways because of how stuff ended, and it's like a father and a son falling out, it's cool as fuck that Bret's in hospital and Vince phones him up and just puts all his ego aside. It's like he wants to see how Bret is. And I'm like, how did you not talk about this? That's kind of cool.
This is true. Well, that is what they decided to do. But despite the fact that it was decidedly biased, it was still a pretty well put together documentary about that part of the Monday Night War. And if if you take this and you take all the other documentaries and things that have been created surrounding the screw job, I think you get bits and pieces of the truth in each one of them. So it was interesting to see what was in this one. The next one, number 7, is The War Gets Extreme! EC-Dub, EC-Dub, EC-Dub. Shout out to Richter Hammer for this one, because I know he loved ECW, and wish he could be here, but
technically for the next 2.
Yeah, this one and the next one, which is Austin. But we're going to talk EC-Dub first, which I wasn't really all that familiar with ECW. I never watched it, because by the time I started watching, ECW was pretty much in its decline. And then the invasion hit, and ECW came over to WWE, so yeah. But I remember Richter always talking about ECW and whatnot, talking about the ECW wrestlers, and I was like, okay, that does sound kind of cool. Kind of want to see some of this stuff now. Sounded kind of brutal, though, which it was. But with this documentary, at least to me, it was interesting to see what part ECW actually played in the Monday Night War, aside from the fact that Vince just happened to buy ECW and WCW at the same time.
Yep.
Because I never knew that part of the story. All I knew was, oh, cool, Vince bought ECW. Okay, so he gets all this talent. That's not good.
Yep, which I think they only went with the he bought ECW just because they already had the ECW people on the roster. Mm-hmm. It was an excuse to basically have them there for the invasion since they couldn't get all the WCW people.
Right, and it was an excuse to bring all the classic like ECW legends back out. Because they never used them, as far as I could, at least from when I started watching, they hadn't used them. Just the ones they'd integrated into the roster, like the Dudley Boys and stuff like that.
Yeah, they did bring out a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, you go, Jim.
I was saying we got some great legends like the Zombie.
He's years later. Mm-hmm. But now, I did find one thing a little, in my opinion, distasteful about this, which I've mentioned in the past. Like I said, if we find something slightly against what the documentary says, we do like to point it out. I found it really distasteful how WCW gets ECW talent, and they're calling it a raid on their talent. They're calling it raping their talent. They're calling it basically WCW coming in and just stealing their talent. ECW takes any of WCW's talent, and it's considered cool because the talent didn't want to be there anymore. I'm like, that's a little biased. And by a little, I mean a lot, because wouldn't the ECW people have gone to WCW because they didn't want to be in ECW anymore? They wanted to go on to bigger things, logically speaking.
Yes and no. I think the difference is the WCW superstars who went to ECW didn't want to be in that environment anymore. They didn't want to be in that company anymore, whereas those from ECW who went to WCW didn't necessarily not want to be in ECW. They just wanted the money. They was like, okay, well, I'm actually getting offered money, and this guy's probably going to actually pay me, so yeah, I'll go there. But it's not so much that they hated the environment or the people or the company or anything. They were just like, money, go. As opposed to the WCW superstars who outright hated the company and hated everything that was going on. They're like, fuck you, fuck this, I'm out of here.
Yeah, but some of them just
difference. But yes, it was biased.
Some of them just hated the fact they weren't being used, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
Which I would make the case every company, including WWE, WCW, and ECW, have wasted some sort of talent.
This is true. This is very true. Keep talking. I gotta plug in, so give me a second here.
But no, I was just saying that because, at least to me, I don't know how you feel, Jim, but that felt really biased, and obviously biased because we could see the results before our eyes of, wait, why is one considered bad and poor and nasty, but the other one's considered okay and cool?
I don't know.
That shouldn't be the case. They were both equally doing the same stuff.
This is true.
But ECW
they wanted to make WCW out to be the bad guy?
Pretty much.
But the ECW did do a lot of stuff right, and they did discover a load of cool talent and stuff like that. And I've heard people describe ECW as this in the past, but it was arguably the last territory.
Do expand on that.
Well, you know what the territories were of wrestling. I don't need to go on with that. Everyone knows that, but it was the last one because it was just one single one that was designed to just come out of one city, one location. It didn't travel or do any of the other stuff. So, in a way, it is the last territory, and it's pretty cool.
Which is kind of funny because if you think about how you just defined a territory, technically NXT is a territory.
Technically, no, because its parent company is it's owned by WWE. NXT is a developmental territory that's owned by WWE. A territory wouldn't be owned by WWE or anything like that. It would just be in one location all the time, like when they used to have the territories all across America, which in itself is slightly funny with them pointing out about the raiding of the talent, because that's exactly what Vince did with all the territories to create WWE, or his dad did. And it's like, really?
Irony. But no, NXT comes out of one location every time. It comes out of Full Sail University in Florida.
It does, but it's owned by WWE. Their talent does go on to Raw and SmackDown and again and at pay-per-views, and also it's advertised worldwide instead of just in their local area.
True. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, like for example, WCW came from Florida, was at one point just shot on location in the Disney MGM studio,
right?
But it wasn't a territory because it was marketed as worldwide, and it was clearly shown equally worldwide. Whereas the ECW one was really very much like its city.
Yeah, fair enough. You make a valid point. Understood.
Yeah, but like I said, they did do a lot of stuff right. I found that, like I said, I found parts of it a little hypocritical and bad, but overall, it was pretty good. Like another hypocritical point was, do you remember the NWO one? I believe it came up multiple times in that one. If not, I've at least seen it in other stuff to do with WWE. They keep talking about how, yeah, the NWO, it was just a copy of the Japanese concept, which is completely a different concept. Where was all the mentions about how all ECW did was take the Japanese extreme stuff and bring it to the West? Where was the talk of that?
Yeah, pretty much.
Very true. Very true. Good point.
Yep.
But like I said, it was still cool. It's cool to see people get to know ECW before it became the cliche of ECW, which people normally now chant who've never watched ECW.
Yeah. See, since then I can safely say and proudly say I have seen some ECW stuff, so I can chant it and know what I'm talking about.
I watched ECW. I remember classic ECW superstars like Bobby Lashley and CM Punk and the Extreme Expose Girls.
Yep. But no, I saw it and stuff when it was on the TV. But like I said, it has done a lot of stuff right. I'm gonna call a spade a spade. There, it did do a lot of stuff right. I think it's overly credited for stuff that it doesn't belong to be credited for.
Yeah. Well, I will give them credit for having the balls to put crazy ass New Jack in their clip montage.
Yeah.
Well, hey, he was part of their history, whether they like it or not.
Yep.
I know, but the dude is also straight up tried to murder people and is a blatant racist. I wouldn't think you'd want that affiliated with your PG company.
More than that, join the cruiserweight division.
Yeah, but unlike Chris Benoit, he hasn't successfully murdered someone and been indicted for it.
He wasn't indicted. He was dead.
He could still be indicted after you're dead. It's a murder-suicide.
No, indicted requires you to be alive and there to be a trial. There was no need for a trial because they knew he did it.
Fair enough.
You clearly have no idea how our legal system works, and I slid on Marcus Shadow.
No, I just know that he was guilty, and unless I'm incorrect, I don't think New Jack was ever found guilty.
But I will say, like I said, I watched ECW and WCW and stuff like that, but when I watched ECW, yeah, like I said, I'm not saying it's bad to chant ECW or anything like that. I'm just pointing out a lot of the people that do it
Yeah.
don't know what the hell that company was about or what it felt like or was there for years watching it. So it's like, well, why are you doing that?
Mm-hmm. Well, in all fairness, half the people that fit into that demographic are probably dead because they went and tried it at home because they didn't have warnings back then.
Yeah.
Half the people who fit that demographic also chant "suck it" without knowing what DX was about.
Well, to be fair, DX got reunited in modern time and told them to chant it.
True.
Pretty much.
So did ECW. Hence why we had Bobby Lashley and Mark Henry of all people. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Yep. Which, to be fair, you do have a point. Every version of DX that wasn't the original was definitely not a case of DX. And the people that talk about we loved DX for years and never saw it when it was just Shawn Michaels, HBK, and China, and arguably Rick Rude clearly didn't know DX. You do have a point.
Yep.
Because I would say that the Zombie and Bobby Lashley were they were as good as X-Pac.
Pretty much.
I still have to say, despite how shit X-Pac was, he did give us one good thing. At least one thing I really enjoyed that I'm like, oh, that's awesome, and then they never used it again.
Yes, Marcus. We know you love his sex tape with China.
No, that's complete shit. No, I was talking about his.
He couldn't have been in a sex tape with China. Did you not see the Austin podcast? The only reason China's not been in the Hall of Fame or used on WWE TV is in case people Google her and find out that she was in pornos. Logically, if Sean Waltman was actually in one with her, Triple H wouldn't do that unless he's actually biased against China.
That's true.
How dare you besmirch? How dare you besmirch?
That's the name of Sean Waltman.
The good name of Triple H.
But no, I was talking about X-Pac's entrance with Kane because despite the fact that, putting Kane in DX was stupid and the whole thing was stupid, that entrance was fucking awesome. I love that entrance.
In my opinion, the only good entrance X-Pac had besides WCW's NWO was X Factor.
That was a good song.
Yeah.
Yo, you're dealing with the X Factor.
I got everything I ever wanted. Great song, completely shit group. Albert, X-Pac, and just incredible.
Yep.
Job Squad.
Jason Albert, Sean Waltman, and just incredible.
Mm-hmm.
You realize it's not his real name, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Okay.
What's the closest thing to his real name that we've gotten? So yeah.
It's called Wikipedia. His real name is very easy to find.
I was talking about actually on the show, Numbnuts.
Then yes.
To be fair, they don't really refer to X-Pac as Sean Waltman.
This is true. Yeah, I call him Sean once in a while, but normally they call him X-Pac.
I know, but X-Pac doesn't sound as good next to Jason Albert.
strictly speaking, he should be Six-Pac.
He should.
Or just six.
Yep, 6 or 6-pack, either one works.
Absolutely. So, Jim, give us your opinion on the ECW one.
I thought it was cool to see some of those matches because I didn't realize, when I tend to think of ECW, in my mind, I tend to put it at a similar, if just minutely lower pedestal to WWE and WCW, and I watched it and realized, wow, this actually was like a territory. It wasn't nearly the production that WWE and WCW had going at the time. This really was a much more homegrown type thing. And it was interesting to see all the stuff these guys were doing in this homegrown environment where there clearly probably wasn't a whole lot of safety precautions. Like, wow.
No, they weren't kidding when they called ECW the Bingo Hall promotion.
No, clearly not.
You can see why Mick Foley was drawn to this, because this was maybe a half step up from what he was doing before he got into professional wrestling, i.e. backyard wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I would make a case that's a massive insult.
Ouch.
Why?
As Mick Foley said, he went to ECW from WCW.
Oh. Fair enough. I must have missed that part. My bad.
Hence why when he was in ECW, he did the whole Uncle Eric stuff to get heat. Of, yeah, come on everyone, you should be like me. Uncle Eric approves. And he was talking about Eric Bischoff as being like Uncle Eric that he looked up to.
Right.
Which totally represented the opposite of ECW, because like Mick Foley said, he's famous for being extreme and being gritty. That's everything that will get you over in this company. So if you want to make it so everyone hates you, be the opposite. Be the smiling guy that loves the authority and stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, it's like Jericho. It worked for Jericho, and he's like, to make people hate him, he became completely boring and, well, relatable to Jim.
Pretty much.
Fair enough. And I apologize to Mick Foley.
And WCW.
Not that he watches our podcast, but I apologize to him anyway.
Mick Foley watches things you wouldn't expect him to watch. I wouldn't be shocked to find out he watches our podcast.
That'd be awesome. Hey, Mick, if you're watching this podcast, like, do an interview for us, dude.
Mick Foley, if you're watching this podcast and you feel offended by Marcus Shadow, he will be an elf for your next trip as Santa Claus.
Yeah.
I'd fucking do that for Mick Foley. Hell yes.
But yeah, I doubt he watches this, but yeah.
Alrighty then. So the next one we have is the Austin era has begun, and that's the bottom line. No, but yes, it's the Stone Cold Steve Austin one, and as we pointed out before, another shout out to our good friend and comrade Richter Hammer, who sadly was busy this evening and could not be here. Probably about half to 2/3 of this stuff I already knew about. It was interesting to see the like WCW and early ECW stuff with Austin, and to see the build up to how and why Austin became dissatisfied and stuff like that. And now after seeing like the ECW stuff in full, like the big like promos and stuff, I'm kind of disappointed they didn't allow Austin to do more lengthy promo stuff, because while he wasn't terrible on the mic, he was no Rock when it came to promos. And it's like seeing what he did in ECW with promos, I'm like, dude, he was actually pretty good.
See, I don't like Austin, but I will admit I thought he was better with the promos they gave him in WWE, because he was much better at just those short to the point promos. When he was like dressing up as like Hulk Hogan and trying to do all that promos, it seemed like the Dean Ambrose promos now. It's like all shaky, and I don't mean the camera, and all over the place, like it has no point. I'm like, I don't like that. I liked it honed in and focused with a sheer definition of what he was.
True. It was also weird to see Austin with hair and like no facial hair. It's like, whoa. To see that transformation, you look at him, you're like, I mean, you could clearly see the face and everything, but it's like, dude, that's not the same guy.
Don't you mean Stunning Steve Williams, or whatever it was called?
Yeah,
Don't you mean the Ringmaster?
No, that'd be him without hair.
No, he still had hair when he was the Ringmaster. He didn't shave it off until afterward. They showed it in the video.
He had really short hair.
Yeah, he had really short hair, and he was bald temporarily during the last part of the Ringmaster.
Fair enough. My apologies.
But
the other thing I'm a little disappointed in is after seeing the WCW stuff, I'm a little disappointed WWE didn't actually let him wrestle, because it looked like in WCW he actually had talent, and then when he got to WWE, he basically became a brawler and stunner, and didn't really wrestle all that much.
see, that goes into, like I've talked about before now, like you saw a bit in this video with the big first video and this one. I didn't like that swap from like your traditional wrestling, like the Bret Hart and stuff, into just Jerry Springer beating people up, swearing and drinking and doing all that stuff. It's like that felt so opposite of what wrestling should be.
Yeah. But at the same time, they had to go with what was going to get him ratings, and unfortunately at that time, that's what got him ratings.
Yeah, that would work, but I would make the case of that's the same reason they had Snooki.
Yep.
Doesn't mean it's good.
I'd like to make the point that her double flip back elbow was not that terrible.
I would make the case if you need to go rewatch it on the WWE Network for just $9.99.
You know, I watch. I give her credit where credit is due. That was some nice athletic ability to pull off that move. That was pretty good. I don't think she should be a wrestler, but that one move was pretty well pulled off.
Eh.
I can kind of agree with Jim on that one. It wasn't. It was executed decently. It wasn't the greatest, but it wasn't bad. Like, if you know, coming from the perspective of she's a celebrity, she's not an actual wrestler. She hasn't been trained for this stuff. That wasn't bad, actually. She did all right with that.
Yeah, I mean, if they had given her 3 months of training ahead of time, she probably could have actually wrestled the Divas.
Probably. I was surprised she was that athletic. I was like, wow, okay, I expect you to be complete nutter crap, not just one move and then crap.
Yeah, as one who went to school with Snooki, it should be noted that she took many years of gymnastics as well as was on the cheerleading squad for many years.
And I will also make the case of, as someone that didn't go to school with Snooki, but someone that's watched wrestling for years, I found her ability in the ring to be David Arquette levels.
Which is fair enough. It was never meant to be better than that. But I will say that they give some credit because you just compared her to a former world champion. Unfortunately.
I did, but I will also make the case at least he wasn't the worst former world champion they've had.
Well, no, that's the Great Khali.
No.
No?
I was on about during WCW's days as well.
Oh.
I'm on about a certain master of swerving deciding to put the title on himself.
I was not aware he did that. Okay, then.
Where do you think Vince McMahon got the idea?
I'm sure it'll come up.
I'm sure it will, but in all fairness, at least Vince McMahon looks like he could wrestle. Or he did at that time, anyway. He still thinks he does, even though he doesn't.
Yeah, but no, the Austin stuff. Like I said, it was cool. It's cool to see the transition. If people like the Austin stuff, I can understand why.
Yeah. It was different and new.
Yep, it was interesting to see his beginnings and stuff, and see him become Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think the character was right for him, and I thought he did well with the character. I'm still a little disappointed that he actually has more talent than he showed, and I'm like, ah. Because I think if they'd have given him the Stone Cold gimmick, but then said wrestle, I think his character would have been infinitely better. Because not only is he this badass motherfucker that can kick your ass, he can back it up in the ring. As it was, he was okay in the ring, but if you ever got into a fight with someone like, say, Chris Benoit, you never got the sense he could back it up.
Well, no, one's actually killed someone. The other one actually managed to kill his wife. The other one just slapped around a bit. Both true, but no.
At least they were staying in character.
Yeah, but no, I will make the case. I don't think that would have worked.
Really?
If he wrestled properly and actually had more wrestling ability, his character would need to be more like the game Triple H than the Austin character, because the Austin one's all about, shut the fuck up, I'm basically going to brawl you and beat the hell out of you and drink beer. It needed to be a brawler. The style matched perfectly, because he was basically like your Clint Eastwood of march into town, kick a few ass, leave. He's not going to be doing like the Jean-Claude Van Damme kicks or anything, but he's going to come in and he's going to kick your ass. And I think that's what worked for the character, if that makes sense.
Yeah, fair enough.
Indeed. Fair enough. I don't know, maybe it's just my personal bias. This is the reason I wanted to see him wrestle, because it's like, I liked Austin, and it's like, oh, now I know he actually has talent. I'm like, damn.
Wait, so you liked him before you knew he had talent? Understanding more why The Rock's your favourite.
Ha.
Oh, yes, I just made a nasty Rock joke. I'm sorry, I will never, ever insult Dwayne again. I'm kidding. Let's stop calling him Dwayne like a certain Phil did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But no, I mean, like I said, he was like you said, he was the brawler, the beat your ass guy. But also, as you pointed out, he never really showed much technical ability in the ring because of that. And it's like, I never knew how much technical ability he had because I saw him pull out wrestling moves here and there, so I knew he had some wrestling ability. But I thought maybe they had given him that gimmick because he wasn't like Bret Hart in the ring. You know what I mean?
Oh, he was never Bret Hart in the ring.
No, but he at least had some technical ability.
He did.
From what I saw in this documentary, it's like, well, shit, he actually had actual wrestling ability, and you just did this for the character, which, as you pointed out, the character worked, and it wasn't needed for the character. But it's like, man, I would have loved to actually seen him wrestle.
Yeah, like I said, it works for the character. It's like Jericho, for example, when he turned heel, and he was basically all silent Jericho and not wanting to do the stuff that pleases the fans. Yeah, you'll notice the lack of stuff like the Lion Salt and all that moves. Instead, it was more like Codebreaker, and it was stuff that still looked kind of cool, but it wasn't what you associate with Jericho, so you wouldn't cheer as much. Which in itself is a mark of genius.
It is.
True.
But no, I think they did a good. I think they did a good job of building up the Cena at the Attitude Era.
I agree, Jim.
Yeah, I agree. I said I knew a lot of the Austin stuff because that's something WWE often talks about a lot. But they did a really good job building him up because he was what they needed at the time. They needed something that was different and new compared to the cheesy gimmicks of yesteryear, and this was something fresh and new. He broke walls down, to borrow a line from Jericho, because he was the first guy to go out there and basically be himself and say, no, I'm not going to be a stupid, goofy gimmick. I'm not going to be this parody. No, I'm going to be myself. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm rebelling against the guy in charge who wants us to have these stupid gimmicks. And fans got behind that because that was kind of what they wanted. They wanted stuff that seemed to be real people that they could relate to. I mean, they mentioned it in the video several times. How many people of that era, and even now, didn't want to go home, didn't want to go to work and smack their boss around for a while and tell them to go to hell and pour beer on them and shit? Well, Austin could do that, and people could live that vicariously, so they related to it.
Yep. But you also got the stupid stuff of like that gun segment.
Yeah.
Pillman's got a gun.
Not that one.
But yeah, like I said, they did do a good job building him up, and if you like him, you will like that segment, and yeah, you see the evolution of how he became what he was, and I think that's pretty cool.
I agree.
It is indeed. And then going from the Bionic Redneck, we go to something a little lighter and a little more flashy, and we go to the flight of the cruiserweights, which is something WWE needs now. I want to see the cruiserweights come back. The cruiserweights were and are awesome.
I would make the case WWE never had them.
I have more than they have now. They just completely buried them.
Yeah, but like you saw at the time in this documentary, at the time WCW had cruiserweights, which is what WCW called them, and they were amazing in the ring. WWE had really horrible light heavyweights, including that one you saw who was overly muscular and clearly a fucking heavyweight.
Yeah.
It's like I think the best thing that ever came out of the light heavyweight title in WWE was the Matt Hardy training for it.
That was good. Well, hey, in all fairness, you're looking your weight don't have anything to do with your ability to win the light heavyweight title. I mean, Crash Holly weighed well over 400 pounds, and he was the light heavyweight champion.
Yeah, but no, like I said, the cruiserweights are pretty awesome. It is a shame when you saw, like, I will admit WCW did sort of waste them, especially as years went on, and it was kind of bad because they were amazing. They were putting on great matches. Ironically, the cruiserweights were like NXT. They were putting on great matches, then when they come up to the main roster, no.
Except Jericho.
Even Jericho, but we'll get to that.
Oh, well.
No, Even Jericho, because we're talking about them wasting his talent, which made Jericho jump ship to Raw.
True. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, we were talking about the cruiserweights and how they were wasting their potential and stuff, and as it alluded to slightly with a clip there, they even showed one of the things which, in my opinion, was one of the most nastiest, distasteful things I've seen WCW do.
Hire Bill Goldberg and call him a wrestler?
No, I say nasty and distasteful and stuff with what they showed a clip of, slightly.
Okay.
Removing Rey Mysterio's mask?
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh. I didn't see that clip.
Then he ends up having a match with Kevin Nash, mask, where if he lost, he had to demask, and yeah, he totally fucking lost, and they took off the mask of Rey Mysterio, which was kind of cool to see with his face because you were a little intrigued, but similar to Kane, once you took that mask off, it's ruined it. It's like, even nowadays, whenever I see Rey Mysterio, I know what he looks like. I don't care about the mystique of the mask as much. The mystique's been ruined.
See, I didn't see that. The mystique is still there for me. That's why I like whenever they take his mask off, he has another mask on.
Yep, add that to the long list of things that Bischoff did that you just don't do in the industry. Because isn't it well known in the industry, you never take off a lucha's mask, ever.
Yeah, except for at this point, he's not really a lucha because he's working for WCW. He's more of an American wrestler. That would be the same as taking Kane's mask off. It was a little distasteful because the mask was helping Ray get over, and that just completely squashes him.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to simultaneously make the point that Alberto Del Rio was a masked wrestler.
Yep, a masked lucha, and WCW and WWE took the mask off him.
Except he never debuted with the mask on in WWE, and had a different name. The fact that they took Rey Mysterio and billed him as Rey Mysterio with the Rey Mysterio mask, it's like, yeah. If they'd actually taken Del Rio, called him Dos Caras, and brought him out as or whatever the hell his name was in Lucha,
Dos Caras,
and brought him out with the mask and then took it off, yeah, that'd be as distasteful as what WCW did.
Yeah, so they took his mask off, they brought him in, and then they repeatedly mentioned the fact that he was the former Dos Caras.
Yeah, well, that's true.
And then had the balls to ask him to induct freaking Mil Mascaras into the damn Hall of Fame, who was wearing his mask.
And also wrestle Rey Mysterio, who they've put a mask back on.
Yeah, that too. In fairness, that wasn't down. That was WCW that took it off.
No, I said who they put the mask back on. Thus, it was making him wrestle another famous masked wrestler, Lucha.
I gotcha.
But yeah, the cruiserweights though did have some great matches, and we got great talent from there, like Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Jericho, Dean Malenko, and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool to see where they came from for those that haven't already seen. So I do recommend checking that out.
Mm-hmm.
But I also totally recommend, if you can, go watch old, and I believe they might be on the WWE Network. Go watch old Nitros and stuff, and you'll see some of the cruiserweights.
Yeah, they are on the WWE Network, a lot of them anyway.
A lot of them, so I don't know which ones. It could be like near the end. It could be near the beginning. I don't know.
I think it's everything up to a certain point. From the premiere up to whatever they've gotten to the point of uploading. But I don't remember what the last one they uploaded was.
Yeah, which is fair enough. I'm just saying it's there for people to see anyway, regardless. But
mm-hmm.
And how when this series comes out on Blu-ray, it will have extras, which are matches and segments about what people have talked about. This one will be awesome because you will get ECW matches, cruiserweight matches, and Bret Hart matches.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I just wish we could get more cruiserweight stuff now, because if NXT has taught us anything, it's that the faster paced stuff is better than a lot of the stuff that WWE is putting out now.
Yep, except for I would also make the case, the NXT people, a lot of them that are doing the faster paced stuff aren't cruiserweights.
This is true.
Like Adrian Neville is not a cruiserweight.
True.
Fair enough.
But I did like the cruiserweights. However, as much as I really did like the cruiserweights, I don't feel they have a place in modern WWE.
Unfortunately. That doesn't mean I can't sit here and wish I could see them again and wish they'd come back.
Yep.
And that brings us... if we must, that brings us to who's next.
I would also make the case for the people listening. When we went to watch this, I talked about how horrible Goldberg was, and I remember the other two being like, it won't be so bad, come on. It's Goldberg.
Yeah, and then for once in their lives, WWE was honest and showed how shit Goldberg actually was.
Whilst also building him up as being the second coming at the same time to make out WCW wasted him.
Which they didn't. Well, they did and they didn't. They didn't because he never had any talent to begin with, but they did because if they'd actually properly trained him, he might have had talent because he had the build and he had the athleticism. He just didn't have the training, so he didn't know how to actually wrestle. If they'd actually properly trained him, he might have been decent enough to at least put on some matches in the ring. As it was, he couldn't even put on an actual match in the ring. All he knew was spear and jackhammer. Those were literally the only two moves he knew.
Yeah, but
I'd like to put out the federation of his career that didn't change. WrestleMania 20.
Yeah, I will make the case of what they were doing with Goldberg actually makes sense why they didn't train him.
It does, but then why have to put him in an actual match where he has to wrestle if you know he hasn't been trained?
Yeah, because, as I was saying, it's because, like they were saying, like they said in the documentary, it was at a time when people wanted the old familiar stuff, but they also wanted that new talent, like WWE was doing, so they needed to push forward with a new talent. And he was a big enough name in football and stuff like that-ish, and he had the look, the intimidation, the character, and everything right, that they just pushed him. It's like it's been arguable whether or not Brock was ready for his push when WWE debuted him and just got him to fucking F5 the Hardys.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a case of it worked because we wanted something new.
Yeah, whether he was ready or not, it still was fine because he still at least had some wrestling pedigree in him. He wasn't like an NCAA champion, so he's wrestled before. Not necessarily WWE style, but he at least had wrestling experience. He could at least pull off some moves and do a halfway decent match. Goldberg has zero experience. There was no reason to put him out there and say wrestle an actual fucking match. That's basically going out there and saying, yeah, we're going to fold for tonight. WWE wins.
Yeah, like I said, I do agree he was, as I mentioned in the past, I don't like Goldberg. I will, however, also make the case, just to get this out the way first, I feel the documentary was unfair to Goldberg, as I've mentioned in the past, in a certain way.
Okay.
When they talk about how, yeah, if you put him in a picture side by side with Austin, they're both bald, they both have goatees, they're the same, and I'm like, they're not the same character. They're not the same type of person, not the same character. They just happen to look slightly the same.
Yeah, absolutely. No, they're not the same. Austin can actually wrestle.
Arguably. But no, that's like saying, oh, Austin happened to wear T-shirts and jeans and talk about how he was anti-authority and stuff like that. Oh, he's clearly a rip-off of the NWO. It's like, no, because they were clearly different. DX was the rip-off. Austin clearly wasn't. And it's like, you can't do that. You can't put Goldberg and Austin and say, oh, just because they're bald with goatees, they're clearly a rip-off. Because if that's the case, Big Show's a huge Austin rip-off.
Yeah.
But yes, the negatives. Like when he looked like a complete joke wrestling Steven Regal.
Yeah. And I even love William Regal's comment about that. There's only so much I can do. I can't hit myself. I'm like, ouch, dude. Truth, but ouch.
Yeah, he's not wrong. So it's like,
No.
yeah. What else was he supposed to say? Oh, I disappointed people that night? No. I will also say the other flip side, like I said, is some of it's been positive for the sake of it. Like, I felt it was really horrible when they kept having people talk about how Goldberg's streak ended, as if that buried or made Goldberg look weak. It required Nash, an existing talent, with the help of the NWO, existing talents, and a taser, and Goldberg left the loss so he could move on to other stuff, because you can only have a winning streak that's constant throughout everything for so long before it gets tedious.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect 100. It makes, in my mind at least, perfect sense to do that ending, because that made him look really fucking strong.
Yeah. I can agree with that. And it's not like the streak was 100% real anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, him not losing was real because of how they booked it, but the numbers were completely ass fake. Anyone with half a brain that could do math would have known that.
And yep, I do love the fact that I have to point that out to you. when we watched the documentary, I had to say to you about the numbers being fake. But yeah, the numbers, they're not. They made up extra wins for him and stuff, which okay. I suppose it's arguable that doesn't matter. I'd make the case if I hate that. But it's also arguable in a sport where it's determined who wins or loses, and it's all scripted anyway. Is there any difference between him coming out every week and saying, I've got an extra few wins, than, say, Austin coming in and being like, yeah, I actually beat up my boss?
True. But can you then call it a streak if the numbers are wrong? I mean, I think that makes, like, say, Undertaker's streak more legitimate because his numbers were 100% accurate.
See, I think Undertaker's streak is better. Goldberg's was him going through every single week, which, like I said, that doesn't work. Undertaker's was at one event, and it lasted for it lasted over 21 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I know someone may say, but he only had 21 victories. How could it be over 21 years? Well, he missed at least 1 or 2 WrestleManias.
True.
He did. He missed 1 or 2 due to injury.
Fair enough. I suppose it was bound to happen eventually.
Yeah, like I don't think he was at WrestleMania 2000, which was horrible. But that streak at least that was just 21 victories. And each one seemed good because it was the grandest stage of them all, yada yada yada. This was going through literally everyone. At one point, he held both the US and the world title.
Yeah.
And people complain if Cena wins 5 matches on the run. Does anyone see a problem with this?
Yep.
I mean, he said it all when, like Nash said, it got to the point during his popularity that the crowd were actually booing him, and WCW had to feed in Goldberg, Goldberg into the arena.
I do remember him saying that, yes. But wasn't that chant meant to be a derogatory chant, not a cheering chant?
Nope, because when they piped that in, it was from when he was being cheered. Because when he was being cheered, they were chanting Goldberg, Goldberg.
Ah, fair enough. See, because I had heard somewhere that was always meant to be a derogatory chant.
That's only when they do it to Ryback.
Oh.
Yeah, pretty much.
Fair enough.
There you go, Ryback. If you're listening, you got mentioned.
Yay!
Yep. What it do?
Mention me more. No.
Which is funny, 'cause I think Ryback probably has more talent than Goldberg ever did.
I disagree with that.
That's debatable.
I would say they were both equally crap.
Fair enough. I would have thought the fact that Ryback actually has been trained and can somewhat wrestle is more than Goldberg, who never got trained and couldn't wrestle his way out of a paper bag.
I would say the fact that Ryback got trained and yet he still injures people on a regular basis makes him worse than Goldberg.
Yep, because Goldberg, you can say he doesn't know better. Ryback does, and as I believe Punk mentioned before now, which take it with a grain of salt. I mean, some of his stuff is currently being sued for being inaccurate. It's a case of, as Punk mentioned, and there is video to back this up, so this one would be right. Ryback clearly throws him to go through a table and misses right onto concrete multiple times. It's like that dude, like CM Punk said he had to go to Ryback at one point and say to him, "Okay, you're either trying to hurt me or you're a fucking idiot. Which one is it?"
And did Ryback look ashamed and say, "I'm a fucking idiot," according to Punk?
I believe he said, "Oh yeah, I'm just an idiot. I don't know better." And it's like, yeah, really.
Yeah. And if he said, "All right, let's go out there and let's show them that you're better than they think you are," and then he hurt him again.
Yep. And then when Punk goes up to him again and says, "Okay, which one is it? Are you actually trying to hurt me now, or are you a fucking idiot?" He goes, "Ryback away!" and hits a smoke bomb.
Ah.
That would have been awesome if he actually did that.
Ryback away! But no, we're talking about Goldberg, not current Goldberg. But yeah.
See, that needs to be Ryback's new gimmick. The Hurricane needs to come back, and Ryback needs to be the new superhero in training.
No. But anyway, Goldberg
don't speak ill of the dead.
Wow.
Wrong.
I mean, I knew Goldberg wasn't good. I didn't know how shit he was until I saw that, because I know, well, you had mentioned it before, and it's just like, wow, he really had no training, and wow, WWE's training thing was that shit. Yeah, WCW clearly had, if what they said in that documentary is true, WCW clearly had no business on growing any kind of wrestler, because they obviously didn't know what the fuck they were doing in their training program.
Well, they did train some people well. And I will also make the case to you, Jim, I was not making a Newmarker joke.
Oh, okay.
I was just making the joke like people have made with the shit character of Rosie. Don't speak ill of the dead and stuff like that whenever someone brings that up, because his career pretty much died in that moment.
Ah, fair enough.
Like, seriously, where the hell is he? He got speared. I think he was the one that got speared through a barricade. It was either him or Umaga. One of them got speared through a barricade by Goldberg and then never seen again.
Fair enough.
Until they got repackaged, obviously, because they both got repackaged eventually, but still, it was what the fuck. But yeah.
Well, no, Rosie never got repackaged. He never came back.
Yeah. Which Goldberg was... No, I'd say Rosie got repackaged, because he got repackaged as shit. Because that was after 3-minute warning.
Oh, you mean he got rid of the barricade as 3-minute warning? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Which was horrible, but yeah. No, the Goldberg thing, it's interesting at least, because parts of it are okay, although I will say, I believe it was this one. It's either this one or it's the next one, but it falls into the both categories, because the next one's in the next video anyway, and we can discuss it more there anyway. I think it was this one, but I don't know. But, oh my god, how arrogant is Goldberg?
Very much so, which
Yeah,
I was gonna mention, because it kind of makes me sad, because it seems like he's genuinely a nice guy, but he is so arrogant and egotistical, because, and this is the feeling I got, is because he doesn't know any better, because again, WCW is shit at actually training their superstars. So to him, in his mind, and based on, you know, how they were like packaging him and pushing him stuff, he was like the next coming. He was that damn good. He just didn't know any better until that one match, and even then it seems like he refused to accept the reality of, yeah, you don't know how to fucking wrestle, dude.
Yeah, which, like I said, to be fair with that, like I said, it's not all their training. They just messed up with one training. That's like saying NXT is shit because it's given us Ryback.
In all fairness, that NXT was shit. It also gave us Heath Slater.
It also gave us Wade Barrett.
It also gave us the primetime players.
And also gave us Daniel Bryan.
Which aren't terrible.
Who choked a dude out with a tie.
Because he was doing a bit, It wasn't like he actually choked him legitimately. They didn't like.
No, but he made the decision to do something that he knew would probably get him fired.
But you had that, but you also had like David Utonga and stuff. That NXT wasn't terrible. It's not the NXT we got now, but it was a great way of getting this new talent known and training them at the same time to bring them to the main roster. It was pretty cool.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I like Tough Enough better, even though that gave us absolutely nothing except horrible fuckadactyls.
And Jamie Noble.
I meant the more recent one, but yes, Jamie Noble and Nydia. Yeah, they were good too.
And Maven and Christopher Nowinski.
Yeah, but does anybody care about Maven or Christopher Nowinski?
You talking?
Yes.
We talking about Tough Enough here?
Yes.
Tough Enough gave us the Miz.
Yep.
This is true. No, technically, Tough Enough gave us the Miz, then decided, no, you're real, so get the hell out. Then Miz came in and gave us the Miz.
I'm gonna make the case. I cared for Maven after the kick to the Undertaker at the Royal Rumble. I cared about Maven during that feud. That actually made me care about Maven.
Fair enough.
Christopher Nowinski, I genuinely did like Christopher Nowinski, and I also liked Matt Stryker, who came up through at Tough Enough.
Matt Stryker
was awesome.
Christopher Nowinski was cool, but only because he had the balls to this day to go out and tell people, yeah, this shit is too dangerous. It needs to be regulated.
Yep.
Props to him for at least fighting for wrestlers' rights.
I believe Punk did the same thing on the podcast.
Fair enough.
I'm kidding. I'm just talking about when he completely talked about how the dangers of wrestling and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When he completely buried that poor doctor's reputation.
Yeah, well, they made the dude wrestle with a giant-ass staph infection on his back.
Which,
Allegedly.
Which, like the doctor was suing him, Punk never went to him for.
Ah.
Now, it could turn out Punk was accurate in this one. I'm just making the case of since that podcast has come up has said, well, Punk wouldn't lie about it, why can't we make the same claim for the doctor?
This is true.
Because as the doctor put it in his lawsuit, it's kind of really horrible to assume he would completely disregard the health and safety of his patients to make a few extra money for the company. That hurts his reputation and his job a lot more.
Which is understandable, and I feel for Dr. Chris Amon. But unfortunately, Dr. Chris Amon has to remember one slightly important fact here, and that's that it has been well documented that his predecessors in the company during certain eras of wrestling did exactly fucking that.
Yeah, but just because his predecessors did doesn't mean anything. It's like you could argue that CM Punk's predecessor in WWE, let's see, someone that didn't quite get over and then eventually managed to win the title. I seem to remember a certain Rabid Wolverine doing something similar.
Touche.
Well, logically speaking, that wasn't his predecessor. It's just cool to make that leap, yeah. But yeah, for the purpose of making a point. But yes, it's a case of...
The only difference is instead of people, Punk just murder-suicide in his own career.
Yeah. Which is impressive, the fact he was able to kill his wife, his child, himself, and his career all at once. And I don't just mean his career like, oh, he doesn't have a job anymore. I mean, they completely almost act like he doesn't exist. Example, the Cruiserweight division video, which we would talk about during this podcast. They really understated Chris Benoit's involvement in the Radicals.
Mm-hmm.
I understand why, partly, but come on, it's meant to be a historical documentary. That's like saying Hitler killed a bunch of people. Does that mean when we have a World War II documentary, we're never going to see Hitler?
True. Although, in all fairness, if I recall correctly, didn't that video also have a distinct lack of Perry Saturn?
No, Perry Saturn featured.
Was he?
And
okay.
they did mention him a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
But I like Perry Saturn. But yeah, the Goldberg thing, I loved the name Jericho gave him of Greenberg.
That was good.
But yeah, the arrogance that we were referring to when we started this little brand, as me and Marcus were talking about, was he flat out refused to do a storyline with Jericho because he felt he was too good. He also states at one point when people talk about his lack of ability in the ring of, yeah, well, I have, what was it, like 10 years or whatever it was, 15 years or something of professional football experience, but I suppose that doesn't account for anything. Which I'm like, no, it doesn't, because that wasn't wrestling. It's like I wouldn't want to see Heath Slater suddenly appear in the NFL because he doesn't have an NFL experience.
Yep.
I mean, that's like Jim saying, well, I've got experience working in a library for years. Why won't you let me fly your plane? I don't see how it's connected.
Yeah.
And I don't think we need. I don't think we need another plane crash in New York. Just saying.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we already mentioned Chris Benoit. We have to mention the other taboo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Goldberg is definitely not all the way up there. Would you consider him dumb as a pew?
No,
Okay, I didn't think so. Me neither.
I'm not considering him dumb. I'm just considering him arrogant.
And ignorant.
Ignorant and arrogant, but it's a case of he's not stupid, if that makes sense. And it's, you know what I mean? It's a shame to see how arrogant he is. But yeah, Goldberg's pretty bad.
Okay, well, I didn't know if you would consider equating football experience to wrestling experience being kind of not intelligent. It's like, who the hell equates that? No.
That is kind of stupid, but at the same time, it was more of the arrogance I felt of him being like, but I'm a great athlete. You saw me play football.
Yeah, no one was debating he's a great athlete. They just said he sucked as a wrestler.
Yes, but I'm saying that was his point. He was trying to make out that he was a great athlete, therefore it should count for professional wrestling, which it doesn't.
Hence why you suck.
Like, for example, another famous football player famously came into WWE and got booed the hell out the building. Eventually, he'd come back and go into the Nation of Domination and become The Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But as Rocky, he was booed. It didn't mean he was suddenly able to equate his football experience or his parents' experience to what he can do in the ring, which he's never said. I was a great footballer. I should be the best wrestler. I was just making that point because it's kind of weird.
In fact, at the time, not on TV, but at the time, and in retrospect, he's even said, "No, I'm not a great wrestler because I'm in football. I'm a good wrestler because I'm a decent wrestler, but I'm certainly not the best wrestler because I have a shit gimmick."
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the reason that he got booed out of the building, because the gimmick sucked, and he knew it sucked, which is why he went to Vince and said, "Hey, Vince, my gimmick sucks. Can I do something else?" To which Vince was like, "Yeah, sure." And we'll get into that next time because, The Rock is one of the upcoming ones.
Oh, yes.
We will, but I will say that's something I think WWE could possibly, I think they may have touched upon it slightly, but they missed a perfect opportunity for some great heel and face heat.
Oh?
The Rock played football.
Mm-hmm.
Goldberg played football for different teams. When they were in Goldberg's hometown, why not have The Rock show up in his old football top, have Goldberg in his, and have him spear him? And play on the fact these two have both gone down similar paths of being ex-wrestlers, about being, both of them have gone down similar paths of being ex-footballers and stuff, instead of The Rock's a dick because he slightly sings songs that people don't like, and Goldberg's the face because he decides to beat up said person for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't the best feud.
No, that sucked.
Hollywood Rock was great though.
He was.
Yeah.
But we had to fight Goldberg because Goldberg was the greatest, and he was going to beat up The Rock for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
But yeah, Goldberg's matches, as I've mentioned before now, it was shorter than his entrance.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Which unfortunately is also half the matches in current WWE.
Not really. I can't think of any current WWE superstar whose entrance is a lot longer in their matches.
I'm more meant collectively. Like, for example, if you're going to have a Tag Team Divas match, their entrance time combined is usually longer than the match.
Yeah, but it's not every match.
No, but it's a lot of them.
Which I made the case, and he is my favorite of all time. But I made the case of Undertaker doesn't even do this. I'm not saying Undertaker's crap in the ring, but as I pointed out to Marcus, he has a really long entrance.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
Which, in retrospect to that, it's probably a good thing that he's not fighting Sting at WrestleMania because we have to sit there for a half an hour just to wait for both to get to the ring.
Sting's entrance wasn't overly long. It was, where's he going to come from? Where's he going to come from? Boom, down to the ring.
Okay.
Undertaker's is more of a spectacle of the mystique, which I'm not mocking it. It actually does work.
Okay. Well, let me just find out then. It's going to be really long at the upcoming WrestleMania because we're going to have to wait for the Undertaker to slowly shamble to the ring. Then we're going to have to wait for Bray Wyatt to light his lantern and for him to slowly shamble to the ring.
Yep. And we're also going to have to hopefully see Sting come from... I'm hoping we see Sting come from the rafters.
I'm going to almost guarantee you won't see that.
I know we won't, but I understand why before people point that out. But I don't see a reason why not. We saw the Troops do it. Sting's done it before. It'd be cool to see Sting come from the rafters and Triple H come out with his King of King entrance. It'd be amazing.
No, that's not the reason I meant. It wasn't because of Owen.
I know it was because of Owen.
No, I said it's not because of Owen.
Oh,
it's
okay.
WrestleMania is at a stadium that doesn't have a roof.
They can close it. Most stadiums have a roof that you can close.
Some of them, but not all. There's a lot of stadiums that don't. That's why they were pointing out, one thing that I was pointing out in an article that I read, is that if they're going to have Undertaker fight Bray Wyatt and they want them to have their usual entrances, they're going to have to put them on at like the very end of the show because it's going to be daylight for most of the show because they're having it out in freaking the other side of the country. It's still going to be daylight when they're running the show, so they're going to have to wait until the very end if they want it to be dark for Bray and Undertaker's entrances.
Which I would make the case, why did the article need to point that out? They do that every time they have an open arena and Undertaker's wrestling. They wait till it goes dark to actually have him come out.
Fair enough.
But I would also make the case if with the open arena, Sting once came out in a helicopter.
Which I would like to see that. That I agree would be badass. I want to see him do that.
Where he came in a helicopter and it's parasailing down still. That was fucking amazing. Where's he going to come from? Helicopter appears like, wait a minute. Haha, he can't come out. No. Oh, I see what you did.
Yeah.
I would like him to have more of the mixture of the Shield entrance mixed with what he did on Raw, allegedly, because it wasn't him.
Mm-hmm.
Cut to a Sting in the crowd, cut to a Sting in the crowd, then eventually cut to him coming out Shield style.
There you go.
I think that would work.
Could work.
But, yeah. You guys' thoughts about Greenberg, because then I think we can wrap this up.
Yeah, Greenberg was shit.
Yes, he was. And I'm going to go on record saying I was surprised at just how shit he was. Wasn't expecting that.
As was I, yes. In retrospect, I didn't remember him being that bad. But I didn't see him at WCW, only in his brief WWE run. Even that wasn't that good.
Which I will say makes me laugh, his WWE run, but give me one sec, I just need to plug in.
Yeah, but I think all in all, the Goldberg little retrospective thing they had here was actually pretty well done, and it was one of the more honest of the five that we saw, because they really made him look like shit, or more accurately, they told the truth, and he made himself look like shit.
Yep.
Well, I'd make the case of they didn't tell the truth, because a lot of it, like why he got injured when he chose to bust his arm through a window with the finger poke of doom style thing, was wrong, and a lot of it seemed to be building him up as better than he was for the sole purpose of talk about how bad WCW was. There was some honesty, but there wasn't a lot. But I was saying the thing with Goldberg that made me giggle, or oh crap, what the hell was it now? What was I saying before I went to plug in?
I don't remember. I think you just said we should talk, give our final thoughts about Greenberg and wrap it up.
No, you were saying something about his WWE run.
Oh yeah, his WWE run I found ironic was he's gone on record before now as saying he hated what WWE did to his character. I will make the case, while his matches were still shit in WWE, his character in WWE was actually more three-dimensional.
Mm.
Like, he showed more vulnerability, which instantly makes him better in my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, back to Marcus.
And also, with respect to that, Goldberg, when you came back, they were putting you up against the hottest man in the industry. What did you expect them to do? Oh, wait, that's right. You're an arrogant tool. Never mind. I withdraw the question.
They were putting him against the hottest guy in the industry. I thought they put him against The Rock.
I thought that was like when he was still pretty hot.
He was a heel.
Yeah, but he could still be hot as heel. Triple H was a heel. That's what arguably he was at his hottest.
Yes, at the same time. And he was champion. And running the show with Evolution.
Okay, fair enough. Well, one of the hottest men in the industry.
In retrospect, they did put him with what was supposed to be the hottest guy at the time because they put him against the next big thing, Brock Lesnar.
Fair enough.
Which, that match could have been better.
No shit.
No, I'm not saying it was horrible because of their talent or because of Goldberg's talent, like we made the joke earlier when Jim did the cough WrestleMania. I'd make the case that's just because both men didn't give a shit.
Pretty much.
And that's always a shame. It's like, I always feel the best people for the business are always those who grew up loving wrestling and stuff, which they mentioned Goldberg didn't on this. He just basically was out from football and was like, you know what, maybe I'll just give this fake thing a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, he never learned what the business was about. He never learned to love the business as much, and I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that was really bad too of him admitting that that he thought it was all fake and then he's doing it for a paycheck. Because at the end of the day, if he goes into it thinking it's all fake, then he's not even going to want to be trained properly. He's not going to give a shit, and it showed.
Yep, which I will make the case, which I don't think this is going to come up during this because it would have come up already. I will make the case some wrestlers are like that, though, sadly.
Oh, yeah.
Like Lex Luger.
Mm-hmm.
I like Lex. He's not horrible. I realize you guys haven't watched Lex properly, like in his prime and stuff like that. He wasn't horrible. Mm-hmm. He actually had a great run against Ric Flair at one point in the Four Horsemen and stuff. That was great. But Lex Luger was pretty damn good. The problem with Lex, and the reason he didn't go as far as he probably could have, because he could have easily been a John Cena, is people would come up to him on airplanes and say to him, "You're Lex Luger," and he'd say, "No." "You are, you're the professional wrestler." "No, I don't do that." He was ashamed of being a wrestler, as people have mentioned before now, which, when that happens, you're never going to go far.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So he was the prototype for CM Punk?
To be fair, CM Punk does love being a wrestler, and he does say, "I'm a wrestler." He just doesn't like talking to fans. There's a slight difference.
Well, he doesn't like talking to fans, and he won't allow anyone to call him like by his real name, but it's your fucking name, dude. Seriously.
Yes,
I mean, if they call you that like in the middle of the arena or something, but if you're like fucking taking an airplane, come on. It's not like The Rock tells you to piss off if you call him Dwayne. He doesn't give a shit because that's his name.
Yes, but no, Jeff, Marcus. There's a reason for that, though. It's well stated. It's a thing about wrestling etiquette. It's been that way for years and years, back to the Hulk Hogan days of the '80s. When you're dealing with the professional wrestlers, it is common courtesy to refer to them by their characters' names, unless there's somebody like John Cena who uses their real name.
Or until they tell you otherwise.
Yeah, otherwise it's considered really rude to just walk up like, The Rock is a nice guy, so he might let people get away with calling him Dwayne because he's been in movies where they called him Dwayne, so people know his name is Dwayne. It's kind of a thing, because he's gotten past that. But and obviously there's certain people like John Cena and Randy Orton who that is their name, so obviously that doesn't make a difference. Mm-hmm. But if you go up to certain people and you just start calling, if you go up to The Undertaker and you start calling him Mark, he's going to get really pissed off.
Yep, it's like if you go up to Austin, people refer to him as Steve Austin. That's not his name. But with CM Punk, I would make the case that's the opposite of the Lex thing, because he's proud to be a wrestler and he wants you to use his wrestling name. And I will also point out, did Jim just use irony?
Did I?
Talk about CM Punk and saying about how, but you don't understand, Jeff. I mean, Marcus, when it comes to people not wanting them to say their real name, you just said that sentence.
He has a point there.
Irony.
No, the other thing I would argue is if you don't want people calling you Phil, you shouldn't have used your Phil on live fucking television.
To be fair, he used that for the purpose of a story, but just because he used it, like Triple H has used Paul, if you were to meet Triple H, you call him Triple H.
Yeah, pretty much. Or Hunter, at the very least.
Well, it depends on in the capacity at which you're meeting him, because if you're doing a business meeting, I guarantee you call him Paul.
Well, yes, if the people that work with him and know him personally because they are direct co-workers with him, yes. If you're some schmuck off the street that's just a wrestling fan, you don't call him Paul.
Yeah, it's one of those rules that a load of fans overlook, but there is meant to be a traditional sense of respect and stuff like that, and that goes into it. And I think Goldberg's one of those that doesn't show the respect, ironically, as we were talking about just to end this thing. But yeah, but I think ironically with Punk, he actually has a healthy respect for the industry. He just doesn't like people. There's a slight difference with that. It's like
True.
It's like I have a passion and I do love video games. I even review video games to this. As we were talking about with Evolve, I don't play with randoms because I don't like random people.
True. Very true. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what they touch upon in the next ones.
Yeah. It's kind of like you don't like going online in the WWE games and fighting random people because they tend to screw you over.
Who, me?
No, him.
Oh.
He always does a fit about that because, like, oh my god, they're spamming moves. Oh my god, they're targeting. Oh my god, I can't win against these guys because they're cheating.
Oh my god,
yes, they're trying to win.
Oh my god,
they use exploit, and it's like, okay, you've won the match. Now let me go on my way because I don't have an hour to waste on you fucking retards.
Oh my god, they're just spamming the same moves over and over again. Oh my god, the targeting's horrible. Is that not a definition of Goldberg's character?
Yeah, pretty much.
To wrap us back up and take us around full circle. Thank you.
Fuck you.
And I will also say for the record, I personally like Marcus, and every time I've licked him, I think he tastes like orange chicken.
I don't know whether to take that as an insult or a compliment.
Well, you know me, I always like to lick things to claim them as my own.
Ew? What you do with Pew on your own time is your business.
I was on about you.
Again, ew?
Your mouth says ooh, but your eyes say yes.
What?
I will make it legal.
Overuse of the laugh track for the loss.
Yep. And also perfect timing for I will make it legal.
Right.
But
yeah, I think as with the last batch, you know, these documentaries continue to be pretty well put together, albeit a little biased or a lot biased depending on which one you watch. But they're still interesting to see, and you know, there's still truth within them, so they're still good to watch, and I would recommend any wrestling fan take a look at these, you know.
Yep, they're really good to watch. It's also worth noting, if you're listening to this, which it's us discussing the Monday Night Wars stuff, and then we're going to talk about how overall the documentaries are and how they are. A lot of what we're talking about, ironically, isn't actually in the documentaries. It's either personal experiences or personal beliefs and stuff. Therefore, if you watch this documentary, you may be surprised.
Oh, yeah.
This is true.
Because we're using these as an excuse for like a quick 5-topic topic.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Basically.
It's XGR. Or it's X Marks without Rick the Hammer.
Yeah, pretty much.
It is.
He's on the disc Mech Suit DLC. You can tell him later. Wink.
Nice.
So would this special series be considered a Wrestling X-Pound Radio miniseries then?
I would consider this just an X-Pound special.
Fair enough.
/ mole hole, because I was the one that wanted to do this.
Yep.
True. Very true. But yeah, if anyone out there listening has the WWE Network available now for just $9.99 a month, do give this a watch. It's really worth it. There's how many episodes is it, Mole?
20.
Let's see. We got like 2 more videos, so yeah, 20.
Okay, so it's 20 episodes long. They're about an hour each, I think you said?
Correct.
Yep.
Yep.
Which means you can watch this entire series in less time than you can the entire box set of 24.
Ha!
It's true.
Irony. But yes. And if you don't have the WWE Network and you're a fan, see if you know anybody that has a WWE Network that will let you come over and spend the night and watch this, because it's totally worth it.
And on a side note, as I found out earlier when I mentioned to Jim, just for people listening from the UK, if you do not have the WWE Network for $9.99, it is worth pointing out the WWE pay-per-view tomorrow of Fastlane is on Sky. Finally, is on Sky Sports, which means it's completely free. You don't have to buy the network to watch that pay-per-view.
Except
Sky
isn't the
gave-
network... Oh, go ahead.
Sky gave their pay-per-view away for free because I can't tell if it's because WWE is and they wanted to do a few free ones whenever WWE it does. But either way, I know I'm going to be watching it even though I have the network on Sky Sports because guaranteed no lag or internet issues.
Yep.
I was going to say, isn't the WWE Network free for the month of February anyway?
Exactly.
It is, although I would think you will find, minus the last couple of videos in which she hasn't been in due to tiredness, this is not February, it's February.
Touche.
This is true.
That will be a thing.
Indeed. Hashtag February.
Indeed.
Indeed.
Hashtag PewBot.
Mm-hmm. So, by the way, since we found out in between the last video and this one, before you take us out, Marcus, do you want to give some props to the narrator?
Yes. So, while we were watching these videos, I remarked at how much I love the narrator. The narrator's freaking awesome in these documentaries. So I got curious, and I looked up who the narrator is for these. These videos, these Monday Night War documentaries, they're all narrated by Heath David, a.k.a. Goliath from The Gargoyles. So, yeah.
Or a.k.a. the past narrator from WWE stuff. Because
Yeah, he's narrated a lot of
stuff in
WWE
the past.
stuff.
Yeah, you'll recognize the voice when you hear it.
But I love how he narrates it because he just makes it sound epic. Every single one of the, and that's like I think half of what makes these documentaries so good is his narration. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I love his narration.
I could see that. Now, if he wasn't completely gone from WWE and over in I believe TNA and stuff, there is something I can kind of actually enjoy with the Monday Night Wars stuff. But I don't know if you guys would agree or not. I would love to see a Monday Night Wars series of documentaries like this. A documentary is cool how it is. I'm not going to say change it, but I would love to have seen a series with similar-ish topics, with say, I don't know, Jerry the King Lawler on one side, or Jim Ross on one side, and on the other side, Eric Bischoff. So you get Bischoff talk about the pros of WCW, Jim Ross talk about the pros of WWE, and vice versa with the negatives. That would be unbelievably awesome. Like similar to how they did the ECW thing with Paul Heyman and Joey Styles talking about ECW and their opinions and stuff ish. I think that'd be amazingly cool to see Bischoff on one side and them on the other, just to do it that way.
That'd be interesting.
Because they did do something similar in that Legends of Wrestling available on the network for $9.99. Come on, WWE, hire us already. We're doing your job for you. No, I'm kidding. It's a case of available on the WWE Network, that Legends of Wrestling. They did do a Monday Night Wars Legends Roundtable in which Bischoff is on it. And he does talk about the actual positives and the real reasons for stuff when WWE talks about the negatives. I'm like, that's kind of cool. I wish they'd do that full blown.
Yeah. If they do that, I reckon it should be Bischoff and McMahon.
I could see that. I was only saying Bischoff just because he was as much as he was the Vince, he was also a commentator for the longest time during the Monday Night Wars. So I would go with him and like Lawler or JR or something because I don't think Vince would be good in that role because I like Vince, but whenever he has to talk WWE, he always tries to be overly respectful for what he does, or he goes full on Mr. McMahon character.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's two roles. There's two modes we see: business Vince and character Vince. We don't see real Vince.
True.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably lost in there somewhere, but take us out. Oh, orange chicken one.
Oh, great. That's going to be a thing now, isn't it?
The orangey chicken one.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm not Indian.
California. No. I'm not going to start singing the OC song to you.
No.
Oh, please don't. Please don't.
That's your new nickname, Marcus, the OC.
No.
Marcus, the OC Shadow.
No, don't you dare.
Note to self, and Cards Against Humanity card. Marcus the OC Chicken. Or OC Shadow, whatever.
Yeah. Otherwise, he's the orange chicken. That makes no sense.
You're right, that's true. That'd be weird.
Fuck you guys.
Which is better? Serial killer Marcus or orange chicken Marcus?
You make the call.
Touche.
Or would you like to be the orange killer? No.
The orange chicken killer.
Yeah, OCK.
No, I don't think so. That will not be a thing. I decree that now.
Not me, I don't have sound effects.
But no, this has been the Monday Night Wars Part 2 with the second 5 videos. I've been your host, Marcus Shadow. Thank you to James Phoenix and Chriz the Mole for joining me.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And be sure to join James Phoenix next time when we look at his favorite superstar of all time, Chris Jericho. Good night, everybody.
Break the walls down!
I believe all three of our favorite superstars are featured.
Yeah,
That's
pretty much.
true,
We're
but
starting
James
with Jericho, then we're going into The Rock, and then we're gonna wrap it up with Undertaker and Sting. There you go.
That should be fun-filled.
Totally.
Join us for that.